Welcome to the Go Time Podcast. With your host, Todd Martin.
So, welcome back to the Go Time Podcast. We have our... Dude, Clay, you're like my first reoccurring guest. First one to make it back twice.
Yeah, that's something.
That I just tricked you into coming back.
Nobody else wanted to come?
Not yet. So what have you been up to?
Oh, same old stuff.
Yeah.
Being a cowboy. Trying to win something.
What do you think of our winners?
You know, it's been pretty good. It's been pretty good, yeah.
Have you realized yet that they come in just like 3-day increments?
Yeah. I actually don't mind a little cold weather, to be honest.
Not now, huh? You're welcoming it.
Now that I know it's not going to be around for 7 months.
Yeah. No, it is like a cycle, and it's almost like a weekly or every other week cycle where we get winter and it's here for about 3 to 5 days, and then we get back to spring, and then we go back to a winter.
Yeah.
So I think today we just got rain and whatever, but tomorrow's supposed to be like 71.
That's the weirdest part is when it just warms right up to
just
really warm weather.
Yeah, really warm. And then that's Tuesday. It's supposed to be 71, and then by Thursday, I think the high is like barely above 30.
Yeah, it happens fast.
Yeah.
That's one thing I have noticed.
It's like a swing of 40 degrees.
Yeah, I was sweating one day the last time it froze, and then it froze. My father-in-law told me, hey, we gotta get ready. It's gonna freeze tonight. I'm
like, what?
I've been sweating all afternoon.
Shorts. Yeah, that's gotta be wild. So a lot of things have changed since the last time you were on.
Yeah, a few things have,
Yeah. Now you're no longer a single man, you're a married man now too,
married,
huh? Oh, dog. Yeah. So, that's just as of recent?
Yeah, January 8th.
January 8th.
Yeah.
You gotta etch that date in your mind.
I keep reminding myself.
Yeah, I know. That's like I've actually forgotten.
You're not supposed to admit that.
Yeah. Well, the funny thing about it was that she had forgotten it too.
Oh, there you go.
My dad actually reminded us. He was like, "Hey, happy anniversary." I'm like, "Happy anniversary of what?" I'm like, "Oh my God!" He's like, "You don't know." So I called, and my wife was like, "Oh, I forgot too."
Oh, that's good.
Yeah,
deal.
So we'd both forgotten.
I don't think I'll get that lucky.
I'm lucky. I don't remember. I don't forget her birthdays. Her birthday's the day after mine, so on my birthday, I'm always getting her a gift or doing something, so I forget to the last minute. So you married a South Texas girl.
Yo. Yeah, I'm stuck here now.
Yeah, she doesn't like the cold, does she?
No. No, I fell in love with her, and she told me if I wanted to be with her, I'd be here. So there's worse places in the world to be.
There is. And since you were last on, you got a new world title.
Yeah, Canadian title, yeah.
Canadian title, the World of Canada title.
Yeah.
So that's good. You had that. So it was a crazy year with it, right?
It was the whole year was crazy. It really was. So
give me because I kind of followed it from what I could follow or whatever else, but so give me the lowdown on what all kind of happened and how it went.
Well, basically, I guess from the time we did the last podcast last winter, I went to the winter rodeos, and then I went to the rodeos in California in the spring, and I just didn't win anything, or not very much. And I wasn't really having very much fun rodeoing at that time, just a lot of the COVID stuff. You'd go places and they'd make you wear a mask unless you competed, and not as many fans in the stands. And
it's kind of weird with no fans, huh?
It was weird, like it really was taking away half the fun rodeoing, because that nervousness and excitement is, I didn't really realize that until it wasn't there, and you're competing in an empty building with the announcer going like it's a regular perf, because they're still having on the Cowboy channel, it was weird.
Kind of weird.
It was kind of eerie, really.
Yeah, like talking like something really big's going on in there. Just like, man, we're just running,
I don't know.
Cattle.
Yeah, so that was. I mean, I think the committees and stuff that went on and put rodeos on through that time, it was good that we had something to do, opposed to nothing. But it was just weird rodeo in that way. So
well, and those guys, there was we had from last year we had Cody Davenport that pushed and kept the San Antonio rodeo going, and there were so many things around professional rodeo that are not just feeding the professional rodeo cowboy. Exactly. I mean, there's like there's a monster industry that there's tons of livelihood that go behind that. Yeah. Not only that, but like what we were talking about on San Antonio Stock Show and Rodeo is like the scholarships and the youth kids and
the
how much
shows what they sell the cows for.
Yeah, well, like that and the Packers that all of a sudden shut down a lot of the whole, overloaded the industry on having no place to go with all those cattle, all the livestock that those kids were raising. That then the Packers couldn't process them, and we couldn't get them to the Packers because we didn't sell them, and man, that made a crazy backup.
It's just a crazy wave. What happened?
It did
on all that.
Well, and so those of you who don't understand that, one of the things that it did was all those kids that raise thousands of head of livestock, whether it's pigs, sheep, goats, cattle, I mean whatever, they are all raising them to be able to come to these shows. When they go through the shows, they sell them. Yeah. And when they sell them, they go to the Packers, and the Packers that they process it and you see it at the grocery store. But they didn't sell, so they didn't.
They were just stuck with them.
So they were just stuck with them.
A year's worth of work,
Yeah, a year's worth of work. They didn't get, they couldn't sell them. So what they ended up doing was a lot of the locals in the rural communities bought them. Yeah. But they sent them to their local processor. Well, all of a sudden, their local processor, I called in to get one processed, and they were 8 or 9 months out.
Yeah, it was crazy.
So you couldn't even get them processed. So that does another thing. Now we're having to feed them. Yeah. Now the feed mills are having to put out more feed, which they're having to, so just back everything up.
Ripple effect.
Huge ripple effect, right? Yeah. And for somebody to push through that, and people were complaining about, like you're putting people at risk. Like, man, there was a lot at risk more than just,
lots of risk.
Things you can't manage, right?
And everybody got affected by it. That's where I hate talking about rodeo and being hard for me and stuff, because I know people got it a lot worse. I was still able to do what I love to do, so
right.
To some degree.
But those producers pushing forward with it, they gave you something to do still, but it's a ripple effect.
Yeah, well,
it was not just
they weren't able to do it how they wanted to do it,
right?
And that in turn made it to where it wasn't the same going to those places, those prestigious places like San Antonio. The feeling wasn't the same at all.
Yeah.
I'm used to going to San Antonio, and there's people everywhere and animals everywhere, and it's this huge deal.
It's a production.
Huge concerts, and that really is half the fun of getting to compete at one of those places.
That's the reward of doing well.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's and from what I understand, San Antonio Stock Show and Rodeo still went on, but they moved it over to the Joe and Harry Freeman Coliseum, which was a smaller venue. Yeah. And it was only season ticket holders that could actually go. So you couldn't go buy tickets to go to it. It was only a certain number. So it was really just limited.
Yeah, it was just not normal. It was just, I don't know, like I thank them guys for all the hard work they did and going for, having something.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't.
It was weird.
It wasn't the same feeling that you get normally, so.
So you think that threw you off any?
I don't know about a competitive level. I know I talked to my wife now, my fiance then about it. I was just kind of down on. I was like, I wasn't winning, so that's never fun.
Yeah,
you understand that.
Yeah,
and then
unfortunately, I understand it well, like anybody.
Yeah, and then I just the rest of it wasn't fun. You know, it wasn't getting to see my friends very much because they were putting you all in, you know, we were all rodeoing in different places and just the rules. And so I wasn't really anxious to go a lot of places this summer, surprisingly. You know, I wasn't really planning on going a lot. And I had a guy call me from South Dakota, Matt Zancanella, and asked me to go up there and rope with him around his place. And I knew that South Dakota, Nebraska, all that had been pretty normal the year before, you know. And I thought, yeah, maybe I'll go up there. It'd be cooler than down here.
Yeah.
And, you know, just ease around to them rodeos. So we started doing that, and we started about mid-June. It was getting a little too hot down here for me, so I needed to leave.
It does get a little warm.
And we did quite well actually, and so we started expanding our circle.
You won several.
Yeah, we won 8. Me and him won 8 first together.
Wow.
And I've never like, they weren't all big rodeos. Actually, most of them weren't big rodeos, but it's still hard to win a pro rodeo.
Yeah.
Ever. So I've never won that many first, and we were doing good, really good, but not good enough to make the NFR. You know, we weren't, just because I hadn't won all winter or spring. And that's when Canada started having some rodeos, and I decided I was going to sneak up there for just a few in September. And so I got roping with the guy I was roping with before COVID, Tice McLeod, who comes from up there. And I'm still roping with Matt Zancanella, but in the United States. When I went to Canada, I was roping with Tice. And we went to 7 rodeos and made the Canadian finals and the Canadian circuit finals. And we went in both the Canadian finals in last place.
In seven rodeos, you won enough.
Yeah. Tice and I won 2 or 3 rodeos as well, first place.
Wow.
It was pretty cool.
Yeah.
It was kind of like, I got a lot of confidence off of that. You know? I got my good horse back and working. Skeeter, we talked about him some last time.
Yeah. So did you have Skeeter all throughout all of those, or when did you get him back?
I had him the whole time. He just wasn't working very good.
Yeah.
At first, that was a big part of why I wasn't winning in the winter and spring. And
so what was he doing? So recap on that. He got EPM,
right? And
you're in the process.
I was young and dumb, and I didn't realize it in time in 2019.
Right.
Way back in 2019.
Way back then.
I rode him in while he wasn't feeling good, and he was getting weak pulling the steer, weak facing to finish the run. But I had nothing else really to ride, so I just kept kind of riding him.
So when you're saying weak facing and pulling, so he'd get you to where you need to be, and then
he was the same horse for me to put it on. Like, I was putting it on him fast where we could win money, but you know, as my heeler's throwing, he's giving the steer tag back. He's not, you know,
so he's just not pulling strong.
Yeah, and we got him back healthy, but that continued to be a problem. You know, I don't know, probably the fear of it hurting, and it became habit. So that was really frustrating last winter, but I just stuck. I had other horses to ride, but I just stuck to him because when he scores so good and runs so fast that I can put my rope on the steer's head better than any other horse I've ever rode. So I was like, I got to get this figured out because I know he's healthy. And actually, Matt Zancanella, Zank, I'm probably going to call him Zank the rest of the podcast because that's what I call him. He helped me tie a lot of things in on that horse. And with doing that, I've actually developed my game to where I ride all horses a lot better throughout a run. And that was a big ingredient I was missing in my game. I had all the tools, but they weren't all tied together. So how I ride a head horse now is different than last year when I talked to you.
So what do you do different? Is it the end of your run, or is it all
after my head rope goes on? I ride a horse differently, and I ride him the same. I ride him properly now, is what I should say.
So what is that?
Well, the craziest part for me is all I have to do is continue to look at the steer's head the entire run, and then my body will react. My body reacts properly, and I have proper equitation. I don't.
What were you doing before?
I would take my eyes away from the steer to look where I was going to go next, and that's when I would start riding poor. I would.
Really?
Yep. And I knew I was riding poor. I didn't know how to fix it.
So what would you do? So when you set up to look where you were going, when you started looking ahead to where you were pulling to, would it make your horse open his shoulder back up and not pull as much?
So I would rein off. When I'd look, I'd rein, you know,
right.
And that would open it up for my horse's shoulder to go back to the cow. So all I have is his head to the left with his shoulder going back to the cow. Or if I stay in the middle of him, I will bring him back to me and where he's strong.
Keeping him in the position with the shoulder up and facing more.
Yep.
Huh.
So it was funny because I called Tommy about it, Tommy Thompson, who I'd learned my horsemanship about.
Mm-hmm.
And I knew it, he knew it. And what's crazy is in practicing, I ride head horses really good. At the rodeos, and we had a big conversation. It's like, I got to figure it out, but I couldn't stop getting excited when I'd put it on the head to be fast, and I'd look away, you know, and I didn't understand that looking away was causing me to ride poor. I knew when I was riding for money, roping for money, that when I turned the steer, it's funny because this is my analogy of what I look like. I'd look like a monkey up there riding across the arena, you know, and I was trying to fix it in my head, and all Zank told me to do was keep looking at their head, and if I realized if I look at their head, I will ride properly, no matter how excited I am, and that's what changed my whole deal.
Isn't that crazy? You know, it's that. So if you've ever taken a riding lesson, if you've ever, you know, taken instruction from a knowledgeable, I mean, you can take bad instruction from wherever. So, but
find it on YouTube.
Yeah. But if you've ever taken good riding instruction, they're like, I took a couple lessons or whatever, and you know, all they do is just tell me to do this and do that and look up, and I'm just going to go learn to ride on my own. It's like, man, you create such bad habits, and it is kind of funny that, you know, when you're giving the lessons, you know, majority of the time you're just saying, sit up, look up, pick your head up, look up. And you're like, geez, that's all he tells me to do. But it's such an important part not because, you know, you just should be looking up, but you'll train your body improperly. And the reason why is your body follows your eyes.
It does. And then your horse follows.
And then your horse follows your body, right? And so if you're looking straight and then all of a sudden your shoulders change and your hips change, then your horse is going to fall in line with exactly the same way as your body's positioned. So if you want him, that's crazy. That's cool that something as simple as keep watching the head of the steer whenever you're pulling, you know, sets all that up.
Tied it all in for me, you know. I was lucky to learn proper equitation and riding and training from Tommy. And so, you know, I was really like, if I showed a horse, say to sell or for sale video, or I would ride him perfectly outstanding, you know. And then for money, I would ride like this little monkey, or, you know, I just feel like I was sitting up there flopping my feet around, and I'm like, what? Well, I know I'm better than that, you know, but I couldn't stop doing it.
Yeah.
And
when it's fat, so the faster it gets, when it's in, you know, you're in the heat of it, it has to be. Repetition is paramount than actually being able to think all of it through, right? Because if it's just thinking, then you're having to think about fixing rather than being, you know.
I always say competitive anything, you know, you have to be able to do or tell yourself one thing for the rest of it to fall in line. And that's what I couldn't figure out was what was that one thing, you know, because I'd be telling myself, do this, do that. Well, then all of a sudden it's hard for me to catch because I'm thinking about what happens after I catch, you know, and just look at the steer's head, you know.
That's so wild.
I don't know. Zank might be upset with me for giving away that big secret, but.
Well, the other part, I'll tell you is whenever I when I'm giving people lessons or I'm teaching or telling somebody about how to train and stuff, like I do these little videos and then stick them up and stuff and like, oh, you know, you're going to give away, you know, people are going to know how to, like, nah. You know, like, you know how many years it took for me to get there? Like, if you're willing to put that work and effort in, you're still going to have to be told to. You go and quit your lessons because that's all that person said was look up. Yep. You need to hear that.
Yep.
And you need to hear that every single time you ride until you learn to be able to make it, to not do it, right? Yep. And that takes time and repetition and practice, right? And it's so funny that people in the horse deal, they think that it's so very different than any other sport. You wouldn't think twice about getting, you know, like, oh, I'm going to go play golf, but I'm not going to take any instruction. I'm just going to go and play golf, right? Or I'm not going to read the rule book.
I do that, and it's actually quite frustrating. But that's another cool thing. I hit a hole-in-one this year.
Get out.
I did. And Zank
on the putt course?
No, Zank was there to witness it. Well, we had a day off for rodeoing, and I cannot believe I did that because I'm not a good golfer, but that was one of my better achievements of the year.
Really? That's a major accomplishment.
Yeah, it was. My little brother was so disappointed because he's a good golfer and athlete. He was my first phone call. Guess what I did? And he was mad at me for it. And I'm like, well, you know, when you're talented, you're talented.
It goes everywhere.
Yeah.
Oh, that's hilarious, man.
And then I think I had to take the 10 on the very next hole. So I'm still not a good golfer, but I have hit a hole in one.
Didn't make you any better, but you got your
you
got your claim to fame on the golf course.
Well, back to what you were saying, you know, Tommy says this, and I know it's for real because I get it probably weekly, but you are not ready to hear something until you're ready to hear something. Oh. So it doesn't matter what you say. And I'll think things he's told me, or he'll say something that, and I'll be like, man, that makes so much sense. This works. And he goes, I've told you that ever since I first met you. Mm-hmm. And I didn't even hear it. Yeah. Don't even realize it's what he was saying because I wasn't advanced enough to even understand what he's saying, let alone, you know, so.
I think that's, like I see that sometimes in people that they'll come take lessons and ride with you and stuff, and they get to a certain point where okay, I'm ready to step things up, and you know, I need to go ride with this guy because this guy's doing that. And like you go there and they go, yeah, well, he told me to do this and it changed my whole deal. And you're like, yeah, I told you that the whole time. You know, you weren't there, right? Yeah. You know.
Well, I actually got that with you with the stop. It's you know, all stuff I'd been hearing from Tommy, and I had a concept of it, and I even told you that, and the way you described it made sense, and and for whatever reason that day I felt it, and once you feel it, then you can start building upon that, you know.
Yeah, you know, it's funny. I've said this before that I've learned a lot. I've learned, you know, some good stuff from good trainers, right? But I've probably learned more from riding those good trainers' horses than necessarily just taking the lesson, because I actually was able to spend time with that horse. I think that, you know, the local, you know, everybody's got their, you know, chatter behind them, like, oh my God, you know, like, well, I could do that if I had that kind of horse, you know, and there was a time in my career where I had the opportunity to go get, you know, a really, really good horse. And I went and bought, for a client, I bought a horse that was really well trained from a really reputable trainer, right? Well, it was Sean Flair. So I bought one, you know, like one of the
very reputable.
Yeah, very reputable, very good. And I mean, there's guys that are good riders and good whatever, but there's a couple that are just unbelievable trainers, right? Yeah. Extremely gifted trainers. And I went and got that horse, and I got him home, and I learned, and I screwed him up and then put him back together and did all kinds of stuff with him, and won a ton. But I learned a lot about his program, about the horse, about everything else by getting it and having it for a certain amount of time and be able to, you know, go through a bunch of stuff with it. That was a pretty was a pretty big deal. Being able to ride behind somebody like that made me so much better of a trainer. And the reward of it was that I got to take what I learned from that one horse, and then every horse after that benefited from it, right?
And that's, I mean, you need great ones in life. Somehow you know, and they'll teach you so much, you know, and especially when they were trained by somebody amazing in the first place. You know, you get a great horse trained by a great trainer, you're going to learn a lot.
Yeah.
And then when you get a great horse, you're going to be able to probably not mess it up like the next one.
That's the big thing, right? Is that when you do get the good ones, the real trick is learning how to not mess them up, because they're just that good of a horse, you know.
And they're going to figure it out.
And,
you know, when you get a real good one.
And when you're riding the, you know, the nice little, you know, grandpa's horse on the farm kind of deal, like, that's not the great ones. You know, like, the great ones are like freaks.
Yeah.
They're incredible.
You know, and it doesn't matter what industry you're talking about. Great horses are incredible, you know. And I like, you know, my analogy of it is, you know, somebody who's smart enough, they probably teach them how to speak English. And so, some of them great ones, most of the great ones, you know, their intelligence level is so high if you understand horses.
Yeah. That and personality too.
Yeah.
Like I think the greater the horseman you become, the more you start to realize and take into consideration personalities too.
Well, it's funny, like, my wife's not into horses at all, you know, but I'm obviously major into horses.
Yeah.
And she does like animals and stuff, so when she does come up to the barn, I always am talking about my horses, you know. That's all I talk about, really. And it's funny because she'll kind of watch, and she's a very observant person, and she can't believe how spot on how I describe their personalities and who they are, you know, just from watching them in the pen. And she sees it, you know. She doesn't want anything to do with them, but she sees that personalities, and it's just stuff she would have never ever thought of if I didn't talk about this horse's personality and this is who he is, and you know, because she doesn't study it that much, but and she'd have never thought horses do have a huge personality, and they are individuals. Oh,
they are. Yeah, that was something that so my wife's not a horse girl either at all. I think there's times that, like, she wishes that she was, because she would like to be more, you know, tied into what I do and stuff too. But she just,
it's nice in another way.
It is really nice. I always say that it works out really well. There's a lot of guys that, you know, train horses for a living, and their wives, you know, do it. They all do it together. And it's a big deal, and they're all into it. And there's been times when my wife was like, you know, it just didn't benefit you because I wasn't part of that. Wasn't as into it or whatever else. And there's some really good things in that too. It's, you know, it's the one thing she can't tell me how to do. It's
really convenient for a marriage.
It is.
From what I've been learning about marriage.
It's good. It's good to have one thing that, you know, you can't be told how to do it. You know, you can still do your thing.
Especially when it's your life's passion, you know.
Yeah.
We get pretty proud of what we're trying to do.
Yeah, exactly. No, so it's a good thing. It can work against some people, but you know, you just have to, you know, figure that part out. And I think the harder part is that as we get further into the relationship, then, you know, you got to make sure that you don't let your passion override, you know, hers, and that you can go and I'm not good at that. I'm just selfish asshat sometimes.
It's a work in progress all the time.
Oh, and I can use the excuse, well, it's just I have to work. You know, so, well, I gotta get another saddle. I have to work. I have excuses to get a lot of things that I want. So, me and my selfish stuff sometimes.
I think we're all a little selfish.
Yeah, a little bit. So you finished the winter and the summer, and then you headed up to Canada. And so when you went up to Canada, so you still run, what's your horse's name?
Skeeter.
So you still riding Skeeter up there in Canada?
Yeah. So, I guess this turns into a whole huge story. So yeah, I took Skeeter up there for those 7 rodeos, and then Canada started COVID restrictions and locking down, and they canceled the last couple of rodeos that they were going to have up there, and weren't sure weren't sure about the Canadian finals, and they were cutting the purse money down at the Canadian finals, and I was like, screw it. And I loaded my stuff up, and I come back down here. Well, as it keeps coming, they're going to have this Canadian finals, and I made it, and the COVID restrictions were still, it was really tough getting back and forth from the border, and I called a friend of mine up there, and they had a horse that I actually tried to buy. His wife had a horse, and they wouldn't sell him, didn't want to sell him, and I said, hey, would you let me ride that horse? And we made a deal on what it would cost, and so I thought, well, I'm just going to fly up there. I'm not going to bother driving up there in November when it's snowing, and Skeeter had a long summer. I'll give him a break. So I went up there, and yeah, we ended up having the best Canadian finals I've ever had. Won more money out of there, and it was paying half of what it normally paid than I'd ever won. So we really kind of took it to him, and it was really fun, and the horse was outstanding. That horse, it's Cody and Kelsey Potts' horse, and he at one point was taking 3 runs a night at the Canadian finals. I was riding him, T. McLeod was riding him, and Tufton McLeod was riding him.
Really?
And on the last day, I got to rope last for the Canadian title, and T was the second runner, and that horse, we rode him every round. And so he was not guaranteed. There was one other team that had a chance, but we were the favorites on the last day to win Canada. That we'd been both riding that horse the whole time.
Get out.
So that was pretty cool.
So he carried first and second place.
Well, they ended up third in Canada, I think, the way it ended up. But it was ours to lose that day. T had some bad luck and got a no time. And if we both got no times, then Steel DePole and Riley Warren could have won the Canadian title. So there was 3 teams that had a chance. But if either one of us caught, they couldn't win it. So, I mean, odds are one team is going to catch in that situation. And we, thankfully, it was me. So, yeah, that was cool. That horse was really good that whole time. And it was a lot of fun. We didn't win one single go-round either while we were there.
Really?
We won second and third a lot. And there's 6 go-rounds up there. So, we had one no time, and I think the worst we won was 4th once, and like a whole bunch of seconds, like 3 or 4 of them.
Holy smackers! So how many make the finals?
12.
12.
Yeah.
How many make them? How many make the finals? In the NFR.
15.
15.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So it was a fun experience, and that's speaking of great horses. That horse he was a very intelligent horse as well, and his greatest quality about him was that he will do the same thing over and over and over again, and
so you just, like, you could count on him.
Yeah, and I felt him dang sure as the week went on. He was losing some steam, and he's got 3 guys riding him going as fast as they can, but you could just keep, I never was worried that I wouldn't be able to get by him, because I knew I could just talk him into just enough, and he wasn't hard to talk into just enough, and I couldn't, obviously he was weakening a little, or not weakening, but running out of steam a little from round 1 to how he was in round 6. But,
yeah.
I mean, that's just in all reality. It's a long week.
Yeah.
If one guy's riding him,
yeah. No
so that was really pretty cool experience for everybody that got to be involved in it.
I bet so. I bet, like, even for the owners to be able to, that their horse is, making 3 runs at night.
Yeah. And T won the first 2 go-rounds on that horse. Wow. We won second. It was just, that horse won an incredible amount of money. It was, over 80 grand that week. Or 80 grand or something. I'm not entirely sure. And that's paying half of what it normally would have paid.
Wow.
So
that's impressive. I bet
cool.
They came home with a pocket full and happy as could be too.
Yeah, and I gave Kelsey, they give you all kinds of trinkets when you win Canada, and I gave her the watch that they gave me, so I need to get her some pictures and stuff so she can have a little wall for that horse, because not every horse gets to win Canada.
No, and not at that level. And so, had anybody used that horse before in the pro level?
So, yes and no. The horse I'd actually seen the horse with the person that owned him previously, and I didn't think he was very special or much at all. And he had rode him at a few pro rodeos, not lots, and I really thought he was kind of just pretty average old man type horse. Just looking at him, I never rode him or nothing. He didn't pique my interest.
Right.
And then didn't really pique my interest when I seen Kelsey riding him. I thought, oh, he looks nice, but not really anything. And then Cody entered Clovis, California heading, and I watched him at Clovis. I mean, they had a 20-foot barrier on dead fresh Brahma cross cattle, and this sucker just ate him up, and I was like, holy cow. And he come over to Tommy. Clovis is pretty close to Tommy, so I had invited them over, and they come over, and we roped, and I watched him run like 10 or 12 steers on the practice pen, and I'm like, holy cow, like that's a nice freaking horse. Like a really nice horse.
Yeah.
Like, and I just never really watched him before, So I kind of asked him about if he'd sell him and blah, blah. No. So, okay, whatever. Well, I kind of just kept that in my mind. And then when I made the Canadian finals, and I didn't want to leave Skeeter up there, and the border's getting hard to cross. And I just felt like everything would be a lot safer if he was here, for this year.
Yeah.
And so I did that. And I don't want to take anything away from that horse. I'm glad I did that. I think I would have performed just as well on Skeeter, but it was cool to have that experience with that horse too. It would have been cool to have Skeeter in another way, but I'm happy he's down here, and he got to rest for 2 months that he wouldn't have gotten to rest.
Would it have been difficult to get him back down here?
I mean, I would have been able to do it.
You just would have hoops to jump through.
There was lots of more driving, and I was kind of got hooked on flying last fall. I was flying around, pretending I was a star.
Well, that was I was going to say, so you did a little bit of flying around last year?
Yeah. Well, I didn't all summer.
Right.
All summer I was driving with Skeeter everywhere, and then in the fall there, I flew to the Canadian finals, and then I flew up to the Canadian circuit finals, which is a month later, in Saskatchewan, and it's cold over there, and it's kind of a pain in the butt. And luckily, I was able to talk Kelsey into letting us get the horse out to Saskatchewan to ride him there she was pretty happy after we won Canada, so I was kind of used that opportunity,
take advantage of that while you can.
And we did good there too. We actually won more money at the circuit finals than any other team, but we didn't win the circuit finals or the circuit, but just the way it all worked out.
Yeah.
We won more money than any other team, so Tyson and I really, really did good. And that money, the circuit finals money, counts for this year's PRCA standings.
Really?
Yeah. So that was beneficial.
That's way beneficial, huh? Yeah. So you're way ahead on...
Well, the Canadian finals doesn't count. But the circuit finals did, yeah. So we won like 3,000 out of there, which, takes about 70,000 to make the NFR. They let you count 75 rodeos. So you got to win, say, 1,000 a rodeo. So anytime you can go to one rodeo and win 3,000.
3,000. So
by my math, it gives you a couple free rodeos.
Yeah.
Which you're going to mess up at some of them. So
yeah.
So yeah, it was a nice little convenient way to just kick off the next year. As well. So
that's something I didn't know, is that you have to, in order to, you're limited on the number of rodeos you can go to, or you can use, not to what you can go to, but what you can use. And you have to declare which ones.
When you enter.
When you enter, not like, I've got enough on this one, I'll claim this one.
Yeah, I wish they'd let you do that, but yeah, I know, it's when you enter. So, like if there's something right around here that, is just, my partner's not out or something, I would rope with, like, say Bandera. I roped with a guy from around here, and I just unofficialed the rodeo, so the money wouldn't count towards the standings. But it's hard to not drive to Bandera to try to win a couple $1,000 when
Yeah.
I'm living in
Yeah.
Bernie, you know.
Down the road, yeah.
So that's kind of, you can go to more rodeos than 75, but it's not going to count for anything.
Hmm.
So.
Huh. Why? How long had they done that? Or what was it?
My whole career.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And they, you know, they put those rules in because there are 600 PRA rodeos. So people with more money could out rodeo you.
So you just make
know.
it a trailer race.
Make it a trailer race, you know, people, if you can afford 2 or 3 rigs and 2 or 3 drivers and a plane, you know, like you could get to, you know, 150 when it's, I mean, 75 ends up being a lot more rodeos than a person thinks. You end up being away from, like, it seems like if you go to 100 rodeos in a year, it seems like you're never home.
I would imagine.
You know, 75, I really only I can do it in the summertime. You know, I can keep my count low, just go to the big stuff in the winter, and I can leave in beginning of June, and I'll be able to get to my enough rodeos
run for a couple of 2-3 months and get enough.
That's kind of my new plan now that I'm a married man.
You know, I guess that would be kind of nice that they limit it so that you can limit yourself a little bit, and
you can do some things outside of rodeo if you. It depends how you choose to do it. If you try to go to the 75 biggest, best ones, it seems like you're gone all the time too. You know.
Yeah.
But if you know, my new philosophy is just win where you go. Try to win as much as you can where you go, because to make the NFR, you're gonna have to win a lot of money.
Yeah.
And it doesn't really matter if you're winning where you're winning that lot of money. You just got to be winning, more times than you're not. It seems like so you're qualified for San Antonio? Yep.
Ah,
yeah.
So
I'm up there on the 10th, 11th, and 12th.
10th, 11th, and 12th.
First set, yeah.
And
then hopefully come back. I need to be back at the finals later on at the end of the month. But
maybe I'll sneak up there and see if I can get in and watch a little bit.
Yeah.
I was going to go over, and I think Dale Brisby has agreed to be on the show, and so he's going to be over there in his booth, and so I was going to stop by, and my daughter is dying to meet him, and she wants to ask him why he always wears sunglasses. So
that'll be a good question.
Yeah. So she thinks he's funny. She thinks he's really funny. So so I figured we stop by up there and meet him a little bit. I think I don't know if I've been trying to get him on, and just our schedules are all messed up. And he's
it's always a little too tricky.
Busy man, yeah. And so I'm trying to do some remote ones, so they're just weird. I just I don't know. I like to have them here, so. But not everybody can stop.
It's a nice little room you got here.
Yeah, it's all
set up.
Yeah, it's kind of fun. It makes it easy. And then me and technology just don't get along real well sometimes.
It amazes me whenever you're hooking all this stuff up.
God, this is ridiculous. Well, and this is like as simple as it possibly can be. It can get pretty ridiculous. I think we're supposed to have. I'm gonna do one with Jeremy Effeld, and he lives here in Bernie. And has a brewery, and he played baseball for the San Francisco Giants.
That'll be cool.
Yeah,
and cool.
Yeah, he was with them during the World Series and won the World Series and all that. And so he's big baseball, and which I don't know. That's not my genre, but it's
always
really
fun to hear what they got to say.
I know, right? and there was a point in his career where like sports psychology really came into and really kind of got him ahead, and so. So I'm excited about it. And then he's put a podcast room in his, so I was like, "Oh, you can come and use mine anytime." I'm like, "Maybe we kind of a cool one to go and do one out of." So that might be kind of good. I might have a bigger screen and stuff, and to be able and have. Gosh, he's got to have more sense than I do on the technology stuff. So
we would hope.
We would hope, because it is not required in the horse industry.
Yeah, it's pretty.
Computer is not something that I spent much time on at all.
No.
So, I'm curious, what is your, we were talking about Skeeter, and what's his personality?
Skeeter's personality, well, there's just not another one like him. That's what Tommy said about him, and it really is the truth. He's he gets the cutest little looks on his face the way, and he'll look at you with his whole eye, like he'll kind of like widen his eyes, you know, and he's super gentle horse, you know.
Yeah.
He doesn't do it out of fear, but like he'll stand in his pen and he'll watch you where you're at. And I wouldn't say he's overly friendly. He's not unfriendly, but like he won't just meet me every time I'm there, but he watches me all the time. And then he gives like 150%, like when you're riding him, and sometimes it's like, dude, I'm just out here exercising you, like this is not a big deal, you know. And he's like, oh, I gotta, and he's never bad or uncontrollable, or you know, but he's just like, when that saddle goes on him, man, you can't make a horse give half of what he's just wanting to put out there all the time. And sometimes it can be a little bit frustrating, but you got to understand where he's coming from, because he's only ever doing it to help you.
Right.
He has no bad thoughts in his head about you know, trying to screw a guy over or anything. Just sometimes he's doing it like when you're just trying to do something real slow because he's trying to give so much, and then he gets really offended too by certain things. Like he does not take being gotten after well. I mean, he gets over it and does his job, but like he's not as friendly to you in the pen for a couple days. Like he holds on to stuff. When he gets over it, he gets over it. But you know, he'll kind of hold on to it. And he's a weird animal that's kind of. And the other thing is, I have to be so careful what I teach him, because if I teach him one thing on one steer, that'll be exactly what he does on the next steer. And like literally, he'll just, and it's like say steer stopping. Oh. You know, steer stopping's a tool we use to get horses getting hold of steers better. And if you steer stop with, you know, one or two steers in a row, he will stop on the next steer.
That's his new job.
It's his new job. And I was like, dude, you know, and he's like, man, well, I got figured out. This is what we do now. And it's like, no, I was just using it as a tool, you know. So you got to he's a fun horse, but you got to understand where he's coming from.
You know, that's kind of, that's something that I think a lot of people miss when it comes to the horses, right? Is that when we're training, it's a constant train, right? It's never like, okay, he's trained and he does that. And they don't train at all the way that we would train as like a coach. If I was coaching, you know, kids baseball, you know, I would put so much repetition into the exact same way every single time, the way you would throw a ball, over and over and over and over and over and over and over.
Horses don't like that.
No, if anything, so where most people, a lot of people that don't quite understand them, and the good ones. I mean, there's bad ones, and there's, you know, and there's bad people too. But, you know, so there are bad horses too. Yeah. But a good one, an honest one, that likes and wants to do his job, is not screwing you over by turning earlier or by, you know, by stopping sooner or doing all those things. He's trying to do a good job for you, and he's willing to do it earlier. Yeah. Right? If you understand that that's not him, you know, a horse running down and setting up before it's supposed to stop is not him trying to screw you over. It's him trying to do a little bit better, a little bit faster. Yeah. He's trying to read into what you I know what we're going to do, so we're going to do that, right? And so as a trainer, you spend a lot of your time undoing the repetition that you're doing. And as a result, you're the rider undoing what your practice is doing, because you need to be doing the repetitive practice. So it's such a pull, right?
It is, yeah, and you go back and forth constantly with it. Yeah. If you just, like in your deal, if you just run them down and stop them every time in the exact same spot, they're going to set up to stop in that spot, and that's not going to allow them for the big stop.
No, it's like your stop has to get shorter and shorter and shorter. And next thing you know, it's 10 feet shorter, and 10 feet shorter is your good stop. And next thing you know, you can't even run down the pin.
And that is not that horse being bad.
No, that's crazy, you know? Right? And that's something that people don't get. And then if you have one like Skeet, and I tell you what, so this young horse that I've got, Frazier, I'm learning a lot from this horse. And he would not be my pick as far as talent wise, 100% my pick, right? It looks wise, 100%. Conformation wise, you got it, right? Personality wise, probably not. right? Probably not. He wouldn't, and it's not because he's got a bad personality. He's got a personality that requires me to not have my personality.
Well, but at least you recognize that.
Oh my God, he's like a torture sometimes for me. He's got a corner in this dang arena that he just, I don't know what it is. He's got a thing about it. And so when we run in that spot, towards that spot to run and stop, sometimes he gets real tight and flinchy. And when he does, man, he'll darn near wreck you and stop, right? Because he doesn't stop. He flinches. He just like, you know? Yeah. And when you do that, then nothing's smooth, nothing's cool. And all it does is, you know, Pop-Tart me out of the saddle or jackhammers me, right?
Yep.
And it's making me an old man really fast in my back. And it's frustrating. So it makes me start reacting. Now I start riding tighter. Then he starts feeding off it, right? So the other day I had him out in the arena, and it was a little bit of a frustrating ride. And it was out. I decided I pulled him out on Sunday, and I just was going to go and ride, just to get a pleasure, fun ride, so that Monday would be a better ride. And so I took him in there. We're riding around, and I just made it lackadaisical, whatever. But I noticed that he kept, you know, screwing around with that corner again. So we got finished up, got off, and I was walking him around. And I walked by that corner, right? I was just walking around. And as I'm walking by that corner, that banner, whatever it is that he's, you know, looking at, I'm walking and he's on my right. And he's staring off to the right, looking at that, right? Looking at the banner. And not paying attention to me, right? So I had him on the end of my rein, right? And so I just jumped up and ran and screamed like, ah! Like it was like something was coming after us, right? He shit himself. I mean, like jumped, like sprung like a cat up, jumped, run to the side, and looked around like, what was it, right? And I died laughing.
Yeah.
I mean, it just cracked me up. So
he was expecting something to get him.
Yeah. So I walked right by.
I knew something was bad in this corner.
Exactly. And I laughed, right?
Yeah.
So I walked right by that corner again. And he walked by and he looked over at it again. And I jumped and like run, screamed, you know, like something was coming after me. And he, same thing, like it hadn't happened 5 seconds ago, right? Yeah. And I couldn't help it. I mean, like I was belly laughing, right? Yeah. It was cracking me up that he was that dumb about it, right? Third time, he still jumped, right? Same thing. And I'm laughing like crazy. The fourth time, he kind of jumped, looked, and was watching me and laughed. And it was hilarious to me, right? Yeah. At that point, he turned off to the side and wouldn't look at me. I come over, walking over to him to like pet on him and let him know it was all okay or whatever else. He wouldn't look at me.
He's upset that you're pranking him. Yeah.
Like it was almost like he was just, you know, disgusted with himself because he couldn't do it, right? Yeah. The fifth time he kind of, but didn't, you know, flinch and didn't want to look at me again. It took me a while apologizing to him that, you know, it was that funny, but God, I have not had one with that kind of personality. You know,
that's something, you know, a lot of people don't, what you just said right there, a lot of people don't realize is apologizing to him. And that's what all of the better horsemen I've ever been around. You know, these horses do have personalities, and I don't want to, like, and they have feelings, and that you have to, you know, like he is a little upset with you that you were literally pulling a prank on him. Yeah. You know, and you have to go, hey, dude, yeah, you made it too easy. Yeah. You know, like you got to get over this because there's nothing going on over here. And that's kind of my point with Skeeter. He'll hold a grudge like that for a few days if he thinks that you were wrong. And it's funny because if he doesn't think I'm wrong, he won't get mad at me for getting after him.
Really?
He's incredibly smart, that one. I also want to add that I'm still learning about that horse's personality. You know, I learn something about him all the time, all my horses. And I think that's important too, is, you know, their personalities will develop if you allow them to develop, I think. And so you'll see more of them, of what, or, you know, or we're getting smarter about them. listening to him. I'm not sure on which way that happens, but I know with Skeeter, he used to be super cold, just a cold horse when I first got him, just like a machine when you were riding him, but like in the pen and all that, he just was very stoic. And he's not stoic now. He's got all these expressions on his face and, so. But, and Tommy did that because he loved that horse, so he spent a lot of time and he got that. And then he just started developing more and more of a personality, which was probably there the whole time, but we were just taking the time to apologize to him, to listen to what he was trying to say, and getting an understanding for your animal. And that's important for people to do. It really is.
Like, I think that's something that we have, because we're on this quick train, fast train of, we got to hurry up and I love, don't get me wrong, I love the futurities. Like, I think the futurities are a great thing of being able to find the greatest talent, the earliest deal and whatever else. And those guys that hit that deal and get to that point, I mean, there's no doubt, there's no way around the fact that, you hustle like crazy to get that much done in a short amount of time. And you have to be observant of all that stuff. At this level, and a lot of the futurities and stuff, you've got to be. But it also is a breeding ground for rush.
It is. I mean, that's where the great ones can make it that early.
Because they can get through some of that stuff and they can, their skin might be a little thicker.
Well, but great horses too are going to poke up early.
Yeah.
And there's other ones that are great too, but are, just can't handle a futurity. A lot of horses can't handle getting ready in time.
Yeah. By that time. Yeah. Yeah. So,
they need to be trainable,
right?
To get ready fast.
And the layman who comes into it without having the experience, the background, right, of being on enough and around enough animals and livestock and whatever else, and they maybe see them as a little bit as a tool or something to get them where they're going. We can look at it and go, well, 90 days gets me this, 90 days just gets it to where hopefully they don't buck you off.
Yeah.
That's just a start, but. That's the hard part for a trainer to when people come and they go, well, what can I expect in this amount of time? Well, you can expect that, in that amount, in 90 days, I will, work him for 90 days. That's all I can expect.
That's something, I've kind of gone into my own horses and got out of outside horses. I get the odd one, but, I'm mainly on my own. And it's something I just have recently realized is, I was expecting me to get more out of my own horses faster, and I was hitting a wall on all of them, and I went, man, when I was riding all public horses, other than my rodeo horses, I was listening to them horses a lot more, and I was getting a lot farther ahead, and that's something pretty recently I've kind of had to have that self-talk with myself, like, hey, I'm expecting too much out of these horses because I think that I have some stuff figured out and I can get it out of them. Well, so I kind of reversed and I went, man, I'm going to listen and pay attention more and expect less each and every day, basically.
God, that's so much faster way, isn't it?
Now all of a sudden my horses are wanting to ride around and, it's like, like that was this fall that I was kind of going through that. I was kind of a little upset with myself for that. I let myself fall into that again, and I mean, that's just all part of the journey, really, is figuring it out. Because you always have back, just like with a horse, and with yourself mentally, you'll go back and forth. And
yeah, but without that, if it was just all wind, then it would be like, hat and I got this and whatever else. You don't grow. You don't grow and become more of a horseman or more of a, I don't know, and I think that, so this is just my personal deal, but, I think that, I think your creator really uses creation to teach us, right? I mean, like to help you grow, become, get a better understanding of, well, you're going to find getting a better understanding of your wife or, and family and how to it's easy when you're younger to be all about me and all about, myself, and then you start to realize like, oh, there's actually other people that I have to worry about too,
There's other people in this world?
Yeah, I know. It's a crazy thing, but you can use that knowledge to be able to grow as a husband or to grow as a father or to grow as, a son or whatever, because you start to realize, like all those things that you're willing to put into and understand and wait and listen to, on that horse. It's like, man, and that's the funny thing about Frazier is that I always say his personality is, God, his personality is he's the 15-year-old kid.
Right.
He's the 15-year-old boy, right? That he thinks he thinks what he says is funny, and it's like half it's stupid.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he's
maybe
walking,
more than half of it.
Yeah. and and he really thinks he's cute and funny about it.
Yeah.
And if you go and scold him for it, he's like just appalled that you scolded him about it. He's like, what did I offend? What did I do to offend you? And it was and he's got this, his humor is like Saturday Night Live humor or like mad TV humor type stuff, and you're like, it's just dumb. It's like fart jokes all the time. Yeah. It's like, stop.
It doesn't have to be all day every day.
Not like all the time, man. And I have a 13-year-old and a 15-year-old son. And it's like, oh man. It can be, but it's so crazy that, and I think that's a big thing. It's like all the things that I've learned with horses and stuff was all in preparation to teach me how to be a father or how to be, and I'm not good at it. I'm not good at, I still learn. I learn through mistakes the way that I have with the horses. I do it through mistakes, but, I hopefully am getting better and, learning from it.
That's people that are good. I like saying this. People that are good or have a chance of being good are the people that admit I'm not good. No. Because then you have opened yourself up to work at it.
Yeah.
To work at life or horses or whatever. Because if you go, man, I got this figured out, and I'm, you don't really. You might know something of this one topic.
It worked last week.
And you got to keep, with horses, with everything in life, it's continuous it's pretty hard to become a master at really anything.
Yeah. Yeah, that's funny. Like even in martial arts, they say that when you reach black belt, that's when the learning begins. Like it's when you've got enough knowledge now that you can start putting it to work and start learning something, right?
Before you're just learning how to learn.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and and I think that's the thing about getting to even that point in not an age based on the futurity, but a knowledge based on the futurity. The horse gets to that level. That's the beginning of, he's got the concepts of all of the stuff to be able to do it to his potential, not your potential, but to that horse's potential. And then now putting it to use in whatever job. Forward. Yeah, to go forward from there. Yeah. Then horses are expensive as crap, right? And
especially right now, which is a good thing.
Crazy. But I've always said that they're expensive, really expensive, if your objective is to get them in the show pen once.
Yeah.
It doesn't make a darn bit of sense if you're going for one run.
Right.
If you're going for, I love the horse and I want to, and if we win, great. I mean, like that's in my game. That's my end deal. That's where I want to be, but it's not a win, right? It's not the win. It's the process of, getting him to reach his potential. And that's where the great part of being a good horseman is. And when you're given the time, when you're given the time to be able to train one and do it right, man, it can be really, really fun. And
it's very rewarding.
It really is.
That's the thing too, is you kind of get attached to them and you want to see them be successful without you if that's where their path leads or stay with you,
Yeah, that had to have been really cool with that course in Canada, right?
It was, yeah. And I didn't get to spend a ton of time with him, as far as he's not like, he wasn't like my horse like Skeeter is, but
you got to be a part of the finishing deal, or not the finishing, but the height of his success, right?
Yeah.
I mean, like that's got to be cool.
And he is a nice horse and like a super nice horse and has a cool like he does have a cool personality.
Gotta have a good personality if he did that.
He's a loyal soldier. Yeah. Really,
those
he's gonna
so rare.
Take his orders and march on,
Wow. And it's funny that, he's probably not the fastest. He's probably not but he...
Yeah, there wouldn't be one category, I would say that he was the best I'd ever rode at. You know what I mean? But he was really good at everything.
Have you had other ones who were that consistent?
My gray mare that I sold before Skeeter, and they were honestly as spit an image of each other as far as competing on them as I ever rode two horses. Huh. They were both
Where is she
big,
at? Felt
the same. Actually, I just ran into Chad Masters, and he's got her at his place and riding her. So,
oh really?
That's cool. That's nice for me. I was glad to hear that. I respect Chad. I would really watch his stuff on his head horses and how he rides a head horse, and it made me super happy because he told me, man, I've just been being nice to her, and she gets better and better every day. And I'm like, I just told him, I'm like, that is a emotional creature. I was like, if you're nice to her and she learns to trust you, she'll give you everything she's got.
Man, riding mares versus riding studs and geldings, that's a whole different deal. That's a humbling experience in itself.
And honest, if they believe in, or like, I haven't had a ton of mares, but like her, you know, she took everything just so well. But she believed in me. Like I'd have her in Canada out with 10, 12, 13 other geldings in a 80-acre field. And if she see me, she'd trot away from other horses and come to me.
Really?
You know, you don't get a connection with a horse like that very often. And she just took but she didn't have to get gotten after very much. She usually was reading what you were thinking, you know, and if you did ever have to scold her, it had to be fast, quick, and really not that hard.
And get out of the deal.
And she wouldn't, you know, she'd take that and she'd go, okay, I'm not going to do that, you know, and that's where she'll leave it. But,
did you see him working or riding, or
I didn't see him riding her. He just told me he had her.
Oh, so you haven't seen her?
I haven't seen her.
I'm curious. How long has it been since you've seen her?
I seen her this summer, and she was not very impressive this summer.
No,
she kind of loped off away from the steer, and then didn't want to pull the steer, and I was like, oh gosh. But she, I don't. The problem was that she was so good, and when I owned her, I let so many people ride her because she was like this horse I won Canada on. She could take it, and it's a good extra income. And I think it was easy to mistake her for a tool because she almost was like a tool. You know what I mean? But there was a lot.
There was a lot of emotional deal.
Yeah, but like as far as what riding her, I mean, she'd do the exact same thing on every steer and never mess up, you know. But
I just wondered if you gotten a chance to go up to her and, you know,
I have.
Like.
I have since I've sold her, and she's not impressed with me. You know, and I kind of had quit there. I did when I first sold her. I'd go up to her, and actually I rode her at Houston after I sold her. Sold her in December, and then I rode her at Houston in March. So this is 2018-ish. Mm-hmm. Don't quote me on the dates, but and to a friend of mine, and I rode her there, and I saddled her, and he was riding his other horse, and and she was like pinning her ears a little bit, looking away from me, you know, like not doing anything ignorant, but you know, I was like, this isn't her.
It's not her,
you know. And it was funny. I got done roping that night, and we loaded them. Their horse was on their trailer, and he untied her, and I was just standing by her. He untied her and just loading her up to go back to stalls, and she just turned and she put her forehead right in my chest and just held her forehead in my chest, like not pushing on me, just held it there. And that was like a pretty big moment. Like, hey man, I forgive you. You know,
you dummy.
Yeah. And then I seen her. I actually did pet her earlier in the last summer, and she just was cold to me the whole time. It kind of broke my heart. So every other time I seen her, I just kind of avoided her, to be honest, because you know, I mean, how, like, you know how special it is for a horse to trot out of a herd of horses and come to you, you know, like, I imagine that's how the first people ever got a horse broke. You know, it would have took that kind of connection.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'm glad Chad's got her and he likes her. Yeah. You know, it
says a lot, too.
That says a lot. And he likes her and likes who she is, you know, so that I think she'll come back pretty strong if she stays with somebody like him.
I tell you what, man, it takes a horseman. You know, you can be a roper, and you can be hand with a rope, you know, and that'll get you so far. But man, I mean,
it's just you need to get when you can get them to do the intangibles. You know, that's the thing is like, how do you know, Skeeter will do it. Peggy did it. This horse I rode up there in Canada, you know, when they do the things that you're not having to ride them every step of the way to get it out of them, that's, you know, and that's not necessarily trainable. You know, they have to be wanting to help you.
Yeah. It's you know, there's something to be said about the partnership of it. I mean, like there's always tons of stupid videos on the internet, but there's always there's one that I've seen where a guy's doctoring a calf and that horse is like blocking the mama cow and like chasing it around. Like, yeah, come on, man. I mean, like, that's not
their team.
Yeah, it is. That's a partner. That's not, you know, you can't teach that. That's not something that's just, you know, solely reactionary. That horse knew his job. Yeah. You know,
and his person.
And his person. Yeah. And you can't get one out of fear to do that. There ain't no way.
No, pressure and release makes it pretty hard to get them doing that, you know.
Yeah.
And it takes a long time. That's one thing. I'm learning. It takes a long time to really get them to fully trust you. And why should they? You know, they don't ask us to put the halter on them. They don't ask us to saddle them. They don't ask us to do these things. And so it takes a long time, and you got to always be working on, hey, you can trust me and I'm going to trust you. And that's what you're working towards.
That's funny. You know, like I've got, I've had a tough week with my youngest son. And that's been, God dang, man, that's been, he's just the same as the horses, right? It's just his personality and stuff is a challenge. And so I didn't get him. So he's all my kids are adopted, but he was like 6 when I got him, and so there's history behind it, right? And it takes, boy, it's such a, you know, revealing thing for me, right? Like that, you know, like, well, I've been your dad for 2 years, you know, and that's just, it's not a very long time for a relationship, and it takes time to build that trust up, and that trust has been broken by others, or it's been broken, you know, just period. And he's got, you know, we're working through stuff, right? Yeah. He's my son. He's been my son for 7 years, right? And it took, I think if I had not learned what I've learned with the horses, it would have been 10 times harder. But, you know, he's been my son for 7 years plus. Yeah. Right? And just recently will call me dad. Right? And sometimes, not all the time, but just, you know, infrequently. Right? And it's an earned thing, but it's earned through that relationship. I can discipline, you know, tell you what to do, whatever else, but the trust and everything else is, and the worst part is the trust. It takes a long time to build up or whatever and it's through a relationship you can, but then it can break it through a relationship really quick too. Yeah. And I'm pretty good at that. You know? God dang. That's a hard thing that's the next step, right?
Yeah. Well, it's just always, I mean, you got to always keep working at it. Yeah. You know, it's always there to be worked at.
Oh, yeah, because there's plenty to work on. I screw it up, you know?
That's human nature.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, but, you know, like I can't imagine having to go through that and do that without the acknowledgement of that. Like, if not having the presence of mind to go like, and it's you know, it's revealing of, you know, my training and everything else. Like I got rewarded early on for, like, you know, grabbing something by the scruff of its neck and forcing it to go and do it. And I thought, I'm a trainer.
I still get caught doing that myself, you know, and it's but when same as, you know, human relationships, if people want, or horses want to do something for you,
when you get
the training's pretty easy, or the, you know, getting a task done, that's pretty easy. But if you walk in, say, a horse's pen, and they look away from you and walk the other direction, and that's how you start your day. I mean, that's not something that's coming out going, hey, I want you to tell me what we're doing today. You know?
Yeah, I think that's the hard part. I think when we get into training and stuff, that in order to make, you know, decent money and be riding enough of them as a horse trainer, showing, you know, doing show horses and everything else, you know, you have 20, 30, 40. Some of these guys run 80 head of horses in training. Like, man, there's no way. There's no way you can keep that. And I hate, you know, I keep 10 head of horses in training right now. And I hate having 10. I would like to have like 3, you know, because I want to do it to that level. Like, I want to be that efficient with it. I want to have those 3 have a relationship with me and have that much of a relationship with each other. You know, like, you want to have like that really cool team. Yeah. That's what I love, you know, as it gets to the point where I could, but it's kind of hard to make a living at riding.
It's kind of hard, yeah. Yeah. Well, that's something I've, you know, really gone into here recently too, is some less horses and I'm spending just as much time. Yeah. But, you know, I was getting into that feeling of, I just don't have time to do that. So I got to rush in this area so I can do this, you know, and I just thought to myself, I was like, you know, that ain't going to work. You know, I'm going to take the time to have conversations with them, you know, because if you do that every day, pretty soon you're doing what you want to be doing pretty fast. Yeah. You know, and that's what speeds you up. Not thinking, hey, I'm going to go faster. You know, it speeds you up by having a good relationship with them.
No, man, it really does. God, it makes it's just
so much easier.
It's so much easier.
I know I got one colt in specific I'm thinking of when I'm talking, a little bay colt, and he just didn't like me. And he didn't ride any better because he didn't take any of my training tactics. And now I've made a relationship with him, and now we're going forward. And now he's starting to ride around pretty good. And it's like, but he just would not ride around any better than a colt with 10 rides on him until I built the relationship. And then it was like, okay, now I'm listening to you while you're doing these training steps, not just blocking me out, you know. And now he's starting to learn, but he learns small and incrementally, and his trust can be broke just like, you know, real fast.
Yeah. You know, it's really funny too. It's like you see people do an extreme on one, an extreme on the other. They do the extreme on being able to be the most proficient and good rider possible, but leave that leave that part out of it. And then you see the other ones that are all emotional and can't ride with a flip, you know. And you're like, well, you're hurting them there too.
Yeah, they can't just be Liberty horses.
Yeah, no, like that's not it either. You know, it's you almost have to spend, you know, really. I tell people that it's really important that one of the two of you know what the heck you're doing, right? Yeah. And that horse that understands and knows his job well enough, you know, that's trained well enough to do that, has to be taught not just how to do it, but taught accountability and all kinds of other stuff.
This is your job.
To take his job, he knows it well enough to take care of you so that you can learn how to ride. Well, and, those are worth $1 million, you know?
And they're like people, too. Sometimes they don't feel like it. Yeah. And to have a finished horse, they have to learn how to deal with their stuff. Oh, yeah. You know, Skeeter actually, he bucked on me the other day when we were practicing. And I could tell he was just in a terrible mood, you know, and we were at another guy's place, and it's kind of windy and whatnot. And I got him ready, you know, and I could tell he does this every now and then, you know. So I wasn't too worried about it. I ran the first 2 steers, and he contained himself, you know. And the third one, he realized they were practicing. And yeah, I mean, it wasn't freshness or like he's just gonna show me, hey, like I'm not real impressed today, you know. I spanked him down a hind leg one time, and all of it left. And he's like, okay, I'm just gonna be a good horse, you know. And that's a finished horse you have to be able to go, hey, I need you now, and I'm not going to take forever getting your mind right. Yeah. I need you right now, today, in this moment. And he got there. And to me, that's what a finished one is. Yeah. You know?
Yeah. That's, and I think that is something that most people don't get either if they don't understand the relationship and training and the time that goes into that. And I explain this way from a lot of riders when they're just starting out, is that, it wouldn't be fair for me to take my child and spank them because they got a cookie out of the cookie jar, right? I have to teach you to not go and that's not what you're supposed to do. But once you know and you know what's expected of you and you know you shouldn't be doing that
anyways.
Yeah, and you do it anyhow, then there comes a reprimand that comes along with that. And that is not an unloving and unfair, kind of deal.
That's
but
the
it
most
has to be
loving and fair.
Yes.
Yeah.
But it has to be fair, right? You have to know, you have to be accountable for it. Teaching one you're not teaching one by constantly doing it for them. No. There's a point where there has to be an accountability that comes along with it.
This is your responsibility, and that is true with horses.
And it's true with people and kids and everything else too.
This is your
right?
responsibility to take care of. I say that a little bit when we're roping, and I'm like, your job is to rope. It's your horse's job to watch the cow. We need to teach him how to watch the cow. And we did that on the dummy there that one day, and. On my better horses, like, it's unacceptable to miss a cow. Better.
Yeah.
To not
ever
ever
miss
miss
we're
that
here
cow.
for.
Yeah.
Right.
So that's...
And you expect it. I mean, you don't expect for them to be little soldiers every single day. That's a rare form and a rare animal that can get to that level and to that point.
Exactly.
But there has to be accountability at some point. Yeah. Right. Yeah.
That's hey, dude, this is your job.
Yeah.
Come on, pay attention.
And you can't be held accountable if somebody's holding your hand all the time either. Right? Like, that's not accountability.
Yeah. No.
Right?
No.
That's the opposite of accountability. That's, over nannying something to death to the point where he just goes, nah, whatever, I don't want to do
it. And that's the difference in guys training horses to compete and the guys that are, like, guys that just train to show how cool. You can do a lot of cool stuff with a horse.
Mm-hmm.
But that competitive horse has accountability, and they have their own job that they know they have to do, on their own. Because you can't win on one that it takes you forever to get their mind right. And, hey, are you thinking with me or whatever, The competitive horses, they come out knowing their job. And that's what I find so cool about every industry of competitive, head horses, heel horses, reining horses, cutting horses. To win like they have, they understand so much stuff.
Yeah. And it's the same as any other sport, any other and what it is too is it's a team sport, right? And to be that on the baseball field. Yeah. I can't worry about, do you know where to throw it when there's, a guy on first and a guy on second and it's hit to right field and where are we going to, like, you got to know where your job is to where to throw that ball. I can't do that for you.
Well, it's like, say for team roping with my team roping partner, I need to know that everything that's going on in that guy's life is not there when we back in the box.
Yeah.
And you got to pick each other's confidence up in a team sport. Same with your horse, But still, when it's game time, everybody on the team needs to know that we're all in. Yeah. Otherwise, and that's how I look at it as a horse. Is like, I'll build this relationship with you. I'll do this. I'll hold you accountable. When it's time to compete, there's winners and there's not winners.
Right.
And the horses, and that's the same in horses. I always say, man, this horse is a winner. Well. Or he doesn't feel like a winner, because when them horses show up on game day and they perform every time, that's a winner.
Yeah. And you and your team like that too. It's got to be a cool deal. You can get lost in that too because of it is an escape. You can find that as your escape. So then you get into the competition and everything's fine. When it's almost like a drug of going and. Like I go there and everything's fine. At the rodeo, it's all good. It's all good. And there are no problems. And when the grand entry comes and it's like whoop, clean slate, and we're all out here having a good time, laughing and joking and whatever else, and your worries can kind of go away when you walk into the arena. Yeah. So it can be kind of a drug too. You gotta keep it in check.
It kind of is. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which competitors get that?
Yeah. It is. It's a place to get lost. Yeah. That's all good stuff. Well, cool, man. Congratulations on last year. That's going to be fun.
Yeah.
See how this year kind of starts. You got already a good little start ahead.
Little baby start.
Yeah.
Build on it.
Yeah, that's good. I'll have to come up and see if we can't get up and watch you up at San Antonio.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Cool. Well, thanks for coming back.
You betcha. Appreciate it.
A shout out to Canada. Oh, a shout out to Canada and the truckers.
Yeah.
All those mother truckers, man. I love it.
And they're holding it up. They're holding the city up, and they got the border held up, and I'm in big support of them.
I'm telling you, man. I'm pretty proud of Canada.
Yeah.
I'm prouder of Canada than like all of California.
Yeah, they're doing something. They're trying.
You know
Hopefully
what?
something comes of it.
And you know what the best part about it is they're doing it right.
Yep, they're being very peaceful. They got everything. They're making people's lives hard until you listen.
Yeah.
Because there's a whole group of people in this world that people aren't listening to right now.
No, I know.
You know, and we got to listen to their crap all the time. At least hear us out, you know.
Yeah, I've heard it said before that it's, you're being selfish, and no, there's
no compromise.
There is no compromise. There's no compromise, and you know what? There are people suffering all over now because of us trying to, and we're in this far enough now.
Yep.
We're in this far enough now, and we know that there's now we're starting to see the cost of everybody else.
Well, and it just blows my mind. It blows my mind that, one side goes, oh, you're, whatever they say. And it's like, you and I don't have the same thoughts on everything, but we're friends and there can be compromise.
Yeah.
That's not happening, especially in Canada. Like, just
this whole idea
the right side is just not even getting listened to. Nobody cares, you know,
that you can shut somebody off. And it's one of the cool things, one of the greatest things about the two founding things for our country. My country, not our country.
I'm working on it. I got a visa.
Yeah, but is the freedom of speech.
Yeah.
That you can't shut somebody else up just because, what? You can't shut them up because they're ignorant. It's not an excuse. It doesn't matter. And so if I can just label you as ignorant, then, I can shut you up. No, you can't. It doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
And the other part is that you can't take his guns, so you can't make him shut up, right? And that's the crazy thing about Canada is that they're doing it without doing that.
Yeah.
I admire that.
They're making their voices get heard, and I think who knows if they can keep it up, but keep it up long enough, you're gonna have to listen. And it's I keep in touch with the news up there. I'm from there, and
I've been watching the Rebel News.
The Rebel News, they come with a good perspective.
Yeah, well,
I think
they're not owned. At least
I read all kinds of news, and the politicians up there, they're not listening. They're saying these truckers are a hazard. They're this, they're that. Just listen to them.
Yeah.
It's simple.
Not only that, but your tactics are to shut down roads and, all this other to keep them from coming, like opening up way stations so they all got to get bogged down with their laws and their whatever. And it's like, what? They have a
right to protest.
And they do. And they're doing it well, right? I mean, they're doing it right. They're protesting with what they got and a peaceful way of being able to do it. And I did see them partying pretty hard in 20 degrees below. But I'm
glad I'm not there. I want to support them from afar. They got my full support, but I don't want to sit
down
outside
here in the 70 degrees and support you fellas. But yeah, I have to. I admire those guys.
Yeah,
I probably wouldn't have been my way of protesting. I'm a little bit more hard headed and more like guns ablazing, kind of deal. But man, talk about a good way of doing it.
Yeah, and
it's been a great example.
They've been in the Capitol for 3 or 4 days.
Yeah, they rolled in on Saturday, Friday or Saturday.
Nothing, no vandalism, nothing.
Nothing.
That, that's pretty impressive with that many people.
Yeah.
For something to not happen,
I mean, you've got little pockets of whatever they're trying. That isn't even panning out.
Yeah.
I mean, that they're like, one of them, run through a barricade or something. It was bullshit too.
Yeah.
Wasn't even true. Like these guys are, pretty upstanding dudes, guys and gals, whoever, all of them. And they're being supported by the rest of, the numbers that were in the streets. Holy crap, man. I saw some of the video.
I know.
That's impressive. That is very, very impressive. I did not. The shocker of all shockers for me, and this is just a guy from South Texas that's narrow-minded,
Yeah.
South Texas gun-toting, whatever.
America.
And is I didn't expect to see the Canadians do it.
It's
Of all who,
Yeah.
that stood up and are in face of all of it, going like, screw that.
But it's been so much worse up there.
It has been.
And it's amazing to me that it has taken this long. Also,
Yeah.
All of it's just crazy that.
Well, it's been bad a lot of places.
It has been,
and there's been a lot of people that are just there's been their silent protests of well, I ain't gonna and I'm the same guy I ain't gonna wear a mask. You can tell me in Walmart walking in, I ain't wearing a mask, and I can go on and do whatever. But it's just me doing whatever. But to organize like that, right?
That's what it takes.
It does.
I think it's gonna have to take that.
And who would have? But a bunch of Canadians.
Yeah.
Bunch of nice fellas.
You can't just. That's the thing. You can't just have people locked in their homes.
You can't do it.
For 2 years.
No,
it's
and
just
the mental stress that is.
Well, I know people have lost their jobs. There's, it's not
it's just making
okay.
them all, no,
that's not okay. It's not what you do in supposedly a free country.
Yeah,
you just don't see that hate like it was. I'm kind of been avoiding that country a little bit because it's eerie. Like the streets aren't as full. It's just all kinds of stuff. It's not
crazy.
The place I go when I was up there at the rodeos. It's not the place I grew up. Right. It's not how people act. Are completely different, and it's just like
it's changed everybody's personalities.
It has.
It's made. I think I saw this morning. There was actually doing some of the same stuff in Australia.
Yeah.
Tried to have Brendan on here. I was going to give him a hard time.
Oh, where is Brendan?
I don't know.
He's so busy all the time.
I know. I was going to give him a hard time. I was going to tell him, like, man, who knew the Canadians were going to be, stand up before the Aussies?
Come on. Where have they been?
Give him a hard time.
Yeah.
For the Aussies that listen, man, same thing for you guys.
Trucker protest.
All you mother truckers, get on your horse. You know what though? It's refreshing.
Yeah,
it is refreshing. It's refreshing to see that the others are going to be heard.
Yeah,
and it's not a bunch of silly.
No, it's
not.
not.
The way it's done right, man.
I don't think anybody should get canceled. I don't care what your political beliefs are. Nobody should be canceled.
No, I don't matter if you're backwoods redneck dipshit. It doesn't matter. You can't be canceled.
Yeah.
And we can all sit and roll our eyes about it.
And we don't have to agree with you.
I don't have to agree with you. But we don't cancel you because of that.
If there's enough of you that believe in that, there needs to be compromise as well.
Yeah. And we need to, and you should at least give them the courtesy of being able to be heard.
Yeah. That's bare minimum.
Yeah. Bare minimum. We can roll our eyes at the ignorance of whatever it is that you're saying, but it doesn't mean that you don't have the right to be heard.
Exactly.
That's
been scary all over in society.
It really has. And that who's regulating that?
That's scariest
nuts.
part.
That's
the
nuts.
scariest part.
Yeah.
Is like,
it's kind of.
I don't think we're gonna fix it though.
No.
But
you know what? Being mindful of it and realizing that it's important for us all to know that we're all level-headed. Not everybody's level-headed. I'm not saying that everybody's level-headed, but that the Canadian truckers
they're being
as
level-headed.
a whole are being level-headed.
Yeah.
Right.
They just want to be heard.
Yeah. And they're doing it the right way, using exactly what they've got. And to bring that importance about what they do.
Yeah.
Right? Like guys. Yeah, but no, you are. Like we are all, no matter where we're at, are just as important as the others, right?
Yep.
That, bringing, entertainment to a venue so that they can run and bring money and be able to, locally bump the local economy, that feeds the local youth, that brings awareness to agriculture, it's silly that we don't, right? Yeah. And that we would lesser or make one great. Yeah, it doesn't matter who you are. And I think it's cool. I like hearing
Yeah, I read a news article about the Ottawa mayor saying that they need begging the police to get them off the streets because people are scared and blah, blah, blah. And it's like,
have you seen
they're
those?
not doing anything.
Have you seen the interviews of the police?
No, I haven't seen any.
I've seen a couple of the interviews of the police. They're talking to the police, and they're like, "Well, everybody's pretty nice around here." And they're not even from Ottawa. They're coming in they're trucking them in from other places and getting these, with riot gear and everything else. And they're like, "It's so nice. It's like it's all peaceful.
Yeah,
this is nice Canadians.
Yeah, just nice Canadians that you can't drive around on your roads right now, and because they're not getting hurt.
Yeah." Shoot, you let all them sit around there long enough, they're all going to run out of diesel, and how the hell they're going to get
They might run out of beer by the look of it.
That's true.
They're probably going to have somebody hired trucking beer in for them with that many.
Ain't no lie. That's some of those. I saw one of them in the background of
and
one.
Canadian beer is stronger, by the way. We don't have much more than the U.S., but we got stronger beer.
I noticed in one of the interviews, there's a guy who was interviewing one of the people there on Rebel News, and there's a guy body surfing by.
Yeah, well, that's good they're having fun.
Yeah.
That's good they're having fun.
Yeah. So, well, good. I'm looking forward to watching you this year.
Perfect.
And congratulations on last year.
Perfect. Thanks,
the
Todd.
title for Canada.
Yeah.
Cool. All right, man. Later. Down the road.